Do you think we're seeing a big shift in how tech companies and companies in general are viewing brand building today?
I think we are, and I hope we continue to. I think for a long time, especially in tech, brand was something you earned the right to invest in or grew into. But, with AI first, the landscape is moving so quickly and that the stakes around trust, ethics, and differentiation are so high that brand is really becoming the strategic priority much earlier. So yeah, I feel like brand can be doing the job of both explanation and trust building from day one. And it's not just the polish at the end, it's foundational. And it's really the story that can make your product make sense, that can earn belief and trust, and it can really create a pull in a crowded and fast-moving market like AI.
Hello, and welcome to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jason. And today our guest is Kelly Phillips of Faire. Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, so Kelly, for our listeners, do you mind giving us an overview of what Faire does? And can you also share a little bit about what you focus on in your role there?
Sure. So Faire is a wholesale marketplace that connects independent retailers with brands, helping them find the right products to stock in their stores. So to think about your favorite local shop, they carry hundreds, sometimes thousands of items. And the most important thing that they have to get right to stay in business is choosing the right products. And that's not easy. Faire is here to help make that job easier. We give retailers a platform where they can discover great brands to sell, get the best value on their orders, and manage everything from reordering to returns all in one place. We really think about it as this end-to-end solution built specifically to support the way modern retail can work. And in my role, I lead brand marketing. I focus on how we show up in the world, how the Faire brand works to build trust with our customers, how we tell the story of Faire in a way that's clear, inspiring, and differentiated. And it includes everything from brand campaigns and events to content, social, thought leadership. And it's really a mix of strategy, storytelling, and really being customer-centered.
So you've had a really fascinating career and been at Airbnb, Google, YouTube, and now Faire. What's the through line in your overall journey, and how did you end up in brand marketing in the first place?
Yeah, thank you. I've felt really fortunate to work at some really amazing companies. And if there's a through line in my career, I am drawn to mission-driven brands at pivotal moments of their growth. But I actually got my start on the agency side, working with Procter & Gamble. One of my first big projects was the launch of Tampax Pearl, which was being positioned as a premium product, a luxury tampon, if you will, which was compared to the traditional cardboard line. And that was a real light bulb moment for me at 22. If you can make a tampon feel aspirational through the right story and the right customer context, it showed me that the power of brand can shape perception, trust, behavior. And that experience, I think, sparked this question that I've held throughout my career, which is, what would it look like to bring that kind of emotional storytelling and strategic rigor to any product? And specifically, I've been focused in tech. But that led me to roles at Google and YouTube, Airbnb, and now Faire. And I've really aimed to help them build while they're scaling quickly, navigating change, and then trying to stay grounded in their mission ultimately.
So how would you describe Faire's brand, and more specifically, the Faire brand personality? And how intentional have you and your team been in shaping that?
I'd say Faire's brand personality is ultimately warm, human, and supportive. I think we can be a little whimsical, especially in, certain contexts like our trend forecasting, and then sometimes more educational when it comes to kind of like product communication. But we always aim for clarity and authenticity. And we've been really intentional, I think, about making the brand feel like an extension of our customers. If you think of our customers, many of the retailers who are on our platform are women who are running independent shops. So I'd say that the brand leans a little more feminine, curated, and emotionally resonant. We definitely want to be like more boutique than tech startup. especially because most of our customers aren't super technical. So we've worked really hard to make everything feel approachable and not overwhelming. We want visually and emotionally, we want it to feel like you're walking into this beautiful, inspiring, retail shop that feels unique, community driven, and personal.
That's really cool. So would you call yourselves a tech company?
I think that's been a debate. I think we do call ourselves a tech company because ultimately we're building, a product that is very reliant on the power of the tech and the platform. But we're also in a legacy industry that's really, human driven and built on relationships. And I think it's really important to bridge that gap to build trust with our customers, and that we're not just this idea of tech, but really there's humans behind the tech that we're trying to help empower them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that there's technology there behind the brand, but from a brand look and feel, it doesn't come across as like your traditional tech company. I think that's what so many people, if you go on LinkedIn, they talk about, oh, our marketing as a B2B company should be more like consumer marketing, or there's so many things that B2B brands can learn from consumer brands, but you don't see a lot of people actually trying to do that. And so that's I think it's really interesting that you guys are taking that approach.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely a balance. So both internally and externally. So
Yeah, I bet.
And with the iconic brands you worked at previously, I'm sure you learned so much. And I'm curious what you've carried forward from Airbnb or Google or Procter and Gamble that really shapes how you build a brand today.
yeah, I think, working at both Airbnb and Google, what I've taken away is that the brand isn't just, a logo or a design or what you say, but it's really about every part of the experience that makes someone feel. So, to apply that at Google, I think I learned the importance of clarity and consistency, how to distill something really complex into something universally understood. And it gave me this discipline of simplifying without dumbing down, which I still try and apply to how I think about messaging and positioning. And then at Airbnb, it was really, all about emotional resonance. The brand was built on belonging. And it showed me how powerful it is when your values are baked into every part of the customer experience, like very much the product journey, the marketing, and then how we showed up to the community. So now when I think about building a brand, I'm always asking, are we clear? Are we consistent? And are we connecting emotionally in a way that's authentic to who we are?
That's good. So, everyone's talking about AI right now and the role that it's playing in content, brand building. I think we can all agree that more people are using these tools to create more content. What do you think the role is of copywriters and creatives and brand people in general in preserving taste and things like brand personality, voice, and tone?
I think, honestly, that copywriters and creatives have never been more important. I think we're entering a world where more and more content will continue to be generated by AI, but the human role isn't going to go away. I think it will evolve into something that's more curatorial and intentional. But I think, consumers today are really tuned in to what feels authentic. And I think we're just going to get better and better at spotting that, despite the tech getting better and better at trying to, pass through there. And in the sea of, AI generated content, I think creatives are really the ones who protect the integrity of a brand. They're these stewards of our voice, of tone, and really taste. And when I think about, how we apply that at Faire, our brand really is built on empathy because we serve this community of small business owners who, they don't get into their businesses to go public. They get in to, for personal reasons, for, giving back to their community, to exploring a passion, to creating a vision. And so it means that like our content has to show that emotional intelligence. We have to know when we want to be encouraging, when we want to be a little irreverent, when we want to simplify. And that's not something I don't think you can get super easily from mass-produced content. It's something human creatives do, like instinctively. And I think great brands will depend on that nuance.
we've been talking a lot about, in the overall like competitive landscape, a lot of people don't have like the same moat or, longevity of defense in like some product feature innovation. Just people get to product parity a lot quicker. And with a lot of the AI first companies out there, they're obviously seeing this and investing more heavily in brand early on in their journey, to help stand out and obviously like win attention and mind share. Do you think we're seeing a big shift in how tech companies and companies in general are viewing brand building today?
I think we are, and I hope we continue to. I think for a long time, especially in tech, brand was something you earned the right to invest in or grew into, after product market fit, after growth. But, with AI first companies, and I think we just saw that this week with OpenAI and Johnny Ive's company IO, the landscape is moving so quickly, and the stakes around trust, ethics, and differentiation are so high that brand is really becoming the strategic priority much earlier. So yeah, I feel like brand can be doing the job of both explanation and trust building from day one. And it's not just the polish at the end, it's foundational. And it's really the story that can make your product make sense, that can earn belief and trust. And it can really, create a pull in a crowded and fast moving market like AI.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that move plays out. And, I've seen a lot of the commentary on X about that acquisition. It's like a lot of people are saying like it's like OpenAI got like the LeBron of product design, and then some people in response to that have been saying like, yeah, it's like getting LeBron of product design, but when he's 38 and past his prime. I don't know. Like we'll see how things play out, but I think it's so interesting. Like, and I think it's a really great signal, like you said, that these types of companies are taking creative and brand seriously. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, for sure.
So Faire is what we'd call in the biz a two-sided marketplace, right? So branding and trying to grow a two-sided marketplace is or can be challenging because there's different people you're marketing to. How do you think about that from the perspective of, you need to balance the needs and wants of retailers and brands, and how does that show up in how you all approach the work that you do?
Yeah, I definitely. It's a unique challenge, branding a two-sided marketplace, but I think it can be really rewarding and interesting. And I think what we found at Faire is, and at Airbnb actually, is that there's a lot that unites both sides of the marketplace, whether, you're a retailer or a brand. There's this shared pride in building something independent and creative and a deep love of great products. That shared mission is really our North Star, and it's the foundation of our brand voice. That being said, though, the needs of each audience are different. So we have to be really intentional about how we speak to and then design for both. Retailers are navigating this increasingly complex landscape. They're trying to stay profitable while discovering what's new. Brands, on the other hand, are creators and entrepreneurs, and they're looking to be discovered and then ultimately supported by Faire as a partner. So our challenge is to champion both sides without making either feel secondary. So the experience doesn't have to be identical, but it does need to feel equally considered and ultimately empowering. So that can show up in the tone we use, the language, the visuals, and then we flex those things based on the audience, but always within this unified, empathetic brand.
That's a cool consideration. And obviously you learned a lot about this at Airbnb as well, right? And what have you learned about the overall dynamics there, or potential tensions in marketplace branding that a lot of other marketers probably would miss or not think of?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that in a marketplace, you're never just building one brand. You're constantly balancing the needs, the motivations, perceptions of two very different audiences with different objectives. So at Airbnb, it was about travelers and hosts. And, these audiences don't just need different messages, they need different emotional value props. What can feel empowering to one side can feel threatening or transactional to the other. If you think about, staying in someone's home, the guest wants to feel at home and not worried. The host wants to feel like nothing is going to go wrong, and they want to feel like Airbnb has their back if something does go wrong. And so how we speak about that same idea can be different when you think through the emotional value prop. So when you're building a marketplace or brand building within a marketplace, I don't think it's really about telling a great story, but it's about orchestrating trust between these two groups who don't know each other, but are both placing a bet on your platform. So as a brand leader, you're kind of this translator, this emotional connective tissue, meaning that your brand has to stand for more than just convenience or scale. It has to feel human, fair, and I think values driven to both sides.
Yeah. So you all support like a pretty massive community of independent retailers. And from when we chatted a couple weeks ago, I remember you sharing that it's important to Faire that you all help them succeed and for them to feel like you're helping them succeed as well. Like, what does that mean to you all as a brand / marketing group? And how does that show up in some of the things that you all do?
Yeah, helping retailers succeed for us means designing each touch point to solve a real problem they face, whether that's, first and foremost, like discovering new products. That's something they're constantly needing to do to stay differentiated within their communities and sell through to customers. It's also using tools to streamline their operations. And then also just feeling seen in a landscape that often overlooks small businesses. So how we do that is we focus on a few key areas. The first is inspiration. These retailers, they're curators and tastemakers in their communities. So we aim to deliver content that can spark ideas and show them what's possible. They love trends. And I think we sit on a lot of data that can actually make them, level the playing field a little bit with the data that other big retailers have. So that enables them to kind of, get personalized recommendations for new products. And the second is education. So we're not just promoting Faire, we're helping them get better at using it. So our marketing has to be really human, helpful, and timely. And we really can't use tech jargon. It's really like, how can I do this? Like very real, usable insights. And then third is we really want to spotlight the community itself. Like our customers are incredibly creative. They're resilient. They're entrepreneurs. Part of our job, I think, is to really celebrate them and use our platform to share their stories and not ours.
So a lot of this work seems to center on building the community. What are some of the specific ways you're fostering that connection among, retailers, facilitating even their interactions with one another, but especially for those who don't have that built-in local community connection?
Totally. Yeah. Community is a huge focus for us. Mainly because, our retailers are running their shops solo or with really small teams. Beyond their kind of district chambers, they don't often have a built-in network of peers, and they're often too busy to go out and find one. So we really think it's part of our job to create those moments of connection for them. And we do that in a few ways. We have, our kind of evergreen Facebook forum, it's just an active space where retailers can swap tips, ask questions, support each other, and it's entirely community-led. And then we've launched more and more community events, but one I'm really excited about is our annual customer summit, which is called Reshaping Retail. It's actually happening in San Francisco on June 4th. But it's all about giving independent retailers tools, insight, and connection. We're going to be bringing together retail experts, small business owners, and then industry leaders to share what is working in retail right now and make it very actionable. Like, how should I be stocking for the holiday season? What's going on with tariffs? How should I be optimizing my inventory? And then, also fun, like how should I find fresh inspiration to finish the year strong? So it's a bit of education, motivation, and community.
That's good. Speaking of tools that help your community, you all recently released a trends forecast. What inspired that effort, and how do you see tools like that supporting your customers and what has the feedback of that been so far?
Yeah. So we do a lot of trend work. We do quarterly trends that are category specific. We try to do more timely trends because, as you know, in today's world, trends is, fleeting. But our biannual trend report is called the Faire forecast. And the inspiration from that really came from wanting to provide more than just this transactional experience. And they're constantly our customers looking for guidance around what's trending, what's worth stocking, what's a risk-free bet that's going to resonate with our customers. And so it's meant to be a tool that can be inspiring, visually compelling, but also practical because it's grounded in our own platform data. So as I kind of alluded to a bit earlier, a lot of the mass retailers have so much data and insight on what customers are buying, whereas on the wholesale side for their independent shops, they don't. And so we really aim to kind of empower them with this data. And then I think it reinforces our role not just as a marketplace, but really as a partner to small businesses. And we want to be seen as a source of insight and not just inventory. And then from a brand perspective, it strengthens our position as a company because it understands where independent retail is going and it helps our customers to stay one step ahead.
That's really cool. So how are you all kind of getting the word out there? Is it mostly through your newsletter, or are there a few different channels you're using to, when it comes time to share this, share the news? Like how are you sharing it?
Yes, we definitely through our email marketing and anyone who is a customer, but we also have kind of built a tentpole campaign around this, the Faire forecast, so that it's not just coming through our own channels, but we're promoting it through paid. We are sharing it via webinars. We are sharing it via comms efforts, as well as our social channels. And I think increasingly we'll be working with influencers to help get that word out.
That's really cool. So it sounds like this is kind of more of like a loyalty level campaign where it's like you're providing value to people that are already customers. Have things like this also been useful in bringing new people into the Faire fold, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's so many trend reports out there, and I think we're cognizant of that. But there's no definitive leader in wholesale trends, and it's a bit different, right? Like it's much more of a risk as a retailer to stock, I don't know, I'm going to make it like jelly shoes, right? Because they're like, are these really going to sell? Versus like if I'm a consumer, I can buy a $15 pair of jelly shoes and it's not that big of a risk. And so we have to kind of strike that balance between something that's a little more tested and proven with the data, but also still compelling and interesting enough to spark some inspiration. And I think that goes beyond like loyalty. It certainly delivers on loyalty for our customers, but it also can kind of bring, new customers into the fold and be like, oh, they have a perspective. Faire has interesting products. I didn't even realize they had some of these things in there. And I didn't realize I could get this level of like insight from them. So.
Yes. Speaking of insights, you've been building out this customer insights function, and I'm wondering how you make sure that insights don't just get locked away in a slide deck or internal presentation, but actually become operationalized and shape actual creative and strategic decisions.
Yeah, this is something I care a lot about. When I actually started at Airbnb, I was on the customer insights and strategy team first because it really was the backbone of all of our campaigns and truly any of our, brand work. But you're right. I think insights are only valuable if they drive action and not sit in a deck. So I think for us, the first step is bringing them into the process early, before the brief is written, before the strategy is locked, and really partnering with, our team, the brand team, with creative, product marketing, and growth up front so that we can all be thinking about this insight that becomes the why behind what we're building and not just this validation after the fact. And then I think how you frame insights matter. The most impactful ones don't just summarize what customers said. They create tension, they unlock a truth, or reframe a problem in a way that can actually spark creative thinking. When insights feel directional and energizing, I think people are more likely to use them.
Yeah, totally agree. So what does your team look like, and how do you work cross-functionally with some of the other groups to operationalize what you're learning from the marketplace?
Yeah. So I oversee a team that drives integrated campaigns, media, events, social, and content marketing. And then we partner really closely, as I said, with insights as well as the growth team, which is becoming more full funnel. And that's really kind of like the impetus for as we grow to be a little more full funnel in how we're approaching our marketing mix. We work closely with our comms partners and then creative. And then product marketing, of course. So they are really giving us all those rich audience insights and ensuring that we are kind of delivering back on the product storytelling and where we're going there.
So yeah, that's a cool span, very comprehensive that you oversee. How do you go about kind of balancing keeping everyone really well aligned with like also giving, individuals and discipline teams like their own autonomy and freedom to move?
I think it all starts, and what I like to do is really spend a lot of deep time with my team around key like planning moments. And at Faire we do planning biannually, but priorities change quickly. So I think it's like grounding us in this, year to 2 year vision for our brand and where we want to bring it, and then flex within, product priorities or outcomes that obviously like the business or the product teams are driving, but really staying true to where we want to go as a brand and how we're measuring that.
So if we're able to, bend space and time, and 3 years from now, we are grabbing a coffee, grabbing a beer somewhere up in Berkeley, and you're sharing with us just how happy you are with how things have been playing out there at Faire. What do you think? What would you hope to be able to say? Like, these are the different things that we were able to do, and this is what it's been like.
Yeah, I I'd like to in a few years see the team celebrating success of something we built from the ground up. Like I think we've always had this insight and intuition around our customers, around what they need to feel and feel supported by Faire and understood by the brand. And I'd love to see that kind of be played back internally and also have this belief as brand as a business lever, honestly. But I'd also love to see, like one day a Faire owned trade show. Like that could be, bringing our customers together. It could also be like similarly building on like this product summit idea, but also allowing them to kind of like touch and feel the brands. That will always be somewhat of a barrier for us being an online platform. Um, and I just love for them to kind of, better integrate between this cross section of like community, product education, and honestly like discovery of products. So I would think that our customers could walk away feeling inspired, seen, supported, and then ultimately I think the industry would recognize Faire just not as a marketplace, but really this definitive authority on wholesale trends and really thought of as like the future of independent retail.
Yeah, that's cool. So I know we're almost at time here. Is there anything you're working on right now, or anybody that you're working with that you want to take a moment and give a shout out to?
I'd love to give a shout out to my team. um, my team works so hard, and my partner Jimena Queiroz, she's our head of creative, and everyone on her team. And we have a lot of exciting things coming up in H2. We are launching a new awareness campaign. We obviously have reshaping retail. We're launching the mid-year report of the Faire forecast. Um, and I just feel, yeah, very honored and grateful to work alongside really smart, talented people. Check out, faire.com, and that's FAIRE.com. You could also check out Faire Wholesale on Instagram or our newsroom.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on.